Since its release 4 years ago, over 50 million people have played Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. With 49 updates in 49 months, a thriving marketplace of thousands of add-ons, and a sim the best it's ever been, why would they make a sequel? Microsoft worked out that they have 3 categories of players: core simmers, who want performance, stability, and in-depth features like traffic, ATC, and better immersion; gamers, who want structured objectives like career mode and challenges; and digital tourists, who want an accurate representation of the world with more accessible ways to explore it. Additionally, the sim was starting to creak under the weight of add-ons. Install sizes and load times were now the worst they've ever been. The devs say they've been listening, and Flight Sim 2024 is the result. But what have they done, and how have they moved the sim forward? I was flown out to the Grand Canyon, where I attended a presentation with the devs and got hands-on with Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. I'll talk more about my experience in another video, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. All footage you're about to see is a combination of clips provided by Microsoft and gameplay that I recorded in the sim on the day, in 4K 60 FPS. Flight Sim 2024 will feature the greatest variety of aircraft in the series' history, from the standard GA planes and airliners to helicopters, biplanes, gliders, and new additions like parachutes, paragliders, and hot air balloons. There will be plenty to sink your teeth into. But with this variety comes a need for the aerodynamics to become even more detailed. Greatly increased flexibility in surface and wing design, allowing for multiple wings, multiple tails, and even multiple fuselage aircraft, with each being simulated aerodynamically. Ground effect is now simulated, as is engine wash. In fact, turbulence is now a very real part of the sim. If you fly into your own wake or into someone else's wake in multiplayer, you will feel it. The heavier the aircraft, the more turbulence will be generated by the lifting wings. This turbulent air spreads and dissipates naturally in the game world. It will linger or blow across the runway depending on weather conditions, and you'll be pleased to hear that all these calculations have been heavily optimized and multi-threaded. In Flight Sim 2020, you could pretty much land wherever you wanted and not feel much difference in terrain types other than increased friction. Fields, riverbanks, snowfields, the terrain was not bumpy and tessellated. It did not contain stones or small rocks or other obstacles that might affect your landing. It was all essentially flat. Flight Sim 2024 has 4,000 times more surface detail. This applies to the geometry, terrain, and textures. As a result, all terrain collisions are fully 3D modeled in high resolution. This greatly affects your landing strategy. You will need to scope out the area beforehand and check if the terrain is safe to land on. There's new aerial and satellite imagery. They assembled a new team just for digital elevation maps and produced what they believe to be the best height field mapping anywhere on Earth. For example, the Grand Canyon now has photogrammetry down to 50 centimeters resolution, which, when viewed in the sim, is simply stunning. For parts of the world where the team don't have the rights or the ability to capture photogrammetry, they figured out a way to use satellite imagery to create 3D scans at 2-meter resolution, allowing them to render large mountain ranges and volcanoes in greater detail than ever before. There are 23 biomes and over 100 species of trees. Seasons are modeled and the vegetation adapts to the seasons. So in autumn the leaves will turn yellow or red depending on the species. Aircraft now leave traces on the ground, leaving deep tracks in the snow, tire marks on the tarmac, and deep indents in the grass fields behind the wheels. When you do land, you may also be surprised to see dozens of species of animals. Microsoft collaborated with Frontier, creators of Planet Zoo, and brought giraffes, kangaroos, zebras, sheep, elephants, moose, cows, tigers, and more into the sim. These animals are correctly located in the world and move and migrate just as they would in real life. Machine learning was used on satellite imagery to ensure that livestock such as horses, cows, and pigs are placed differently in the game world than wildlife. Making Flight Sim 2024 a living world isn't just about flora and fauna. Shipping and aircraft traffic are modeled too. After casually taking the transponder signal from every ship in the world every 30 seconds and model matching the data to hundreds of ships in the sim, it's fair to say that the sea will no longer be barren. Sadly, They could only model the world's air traffic to 91% accuracy, but they're working on getting it to 100%. If it's any consolation, they've matched the air traffic data to hundreds of aircraft models as well, every single plane, every single variant. So I suppose we can let them get away with that 9%. Lighting has also seen a major upgrade. Every light source in the world has real-world physical-based intensities from the sun down to the streetlights. In addition, atmospheric lighting has been reworked. The cloud layers are now more accurately lit by the sun, especially when the sun is low, where it will be more yellow at lower altitudes. In Flight Sim 2024, Microsoft are bringing up to 45 new aircraft from the aviation spectrum. Let's take a look at a few highlights. From commercial airliners like the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and the Airbus A330, there's specialist transport such as the Airbus Beluga and Boeing Dreamlifter. On the military side, we have the A-10 Warthog, Airbus A400M, Boeing Chinook, and the Boeing C-17. Several helicopters, including the Airbus H225 and the Ericsson S-64 aircrane. There's the now-retired firefighting Boeing 747 Global Supertanker, and a number of amphibious planes to play around with, like the de Havilland CL-415 and the Dornier Sea Star. I had a fly around with the very unique and powerful Draco X. That thing is a monster. Speaking of unique, there's quite a few new offerings for the more eclectically inclined pilots out there, like the Jetson 1, a one-person drone inspired by Star Wars vehicles, and the Joby S4, a 6-prop eVTOL aircraft. Have fun with that. Personally, I'd like to pop over to the supermarket in the Parachute Sky Rascal to do my weekly shopping. Use of Flight Sim 2024 are balloons. They are fully simulated and perfect for digital tourists or those lacking of how to fly a plane. You have a couple to choose from, the standard hot air balloon and a balloon with a propeller from Dutch company Flydo. There's the motor gliders too, the Pipestral Taurus and the luxurious STEM S12G. With a retractable propeller, you will have the option of being winched out or just take off autonomously from the ground. Gliders have had a major upgrade. Since there's no worldwide database of glider winch sites, Microsoft contacted every single glider organization on Earth and asked them what kind of gliders do they have and what kind of winches do they use, and then proceeded to handcraft all 2100 sites in the sim. Helicopters also got some love in the form of oil rigs and helipads. For oil rigs, Microsoft sourced a database of all 940 oil rigs from around the world from insurance companies. For helipads, Microsoft built their own database from satellite imagery and then populated the world with helipads to match. I didn't have time to play with career mode outside of the opening cutscenes, but here's what I do know. You can start your career from anywhere in the world. I chose Earl's Cone, my local airstrip. You create a custom avatar and are greeted by your own dynamic mentor, the owner of the Aero Club. Microsoft works with the United Nations to represent humankind accurately, a benefit you'll see in airport populations and even in passenger cabin in your aircraft. From here, you'll go through the process of certification, after which you'll get your private pilot license and you can access missions and tackle the skill tree to obtain more licenses, which will then unlock more mission types across your career. Each license has to be paid for, and you will need to successfully pass a check ride to earn it. You won't be left to figure this all out on your own, however, with more than 65 training modules to assist less experienced pilots getting started, as well as pros looking to pass their next rating. Completing missions earns you XP and credits, which you'll need if you want to purchase your own plane and start your own business. Your trusted mentor will be taking a cut whilst you're flying their aircraft after all. Once you own your own aircraft, the responsibility of care and maintenance then falls to you. If you damage your plane, you'll have to pay to fix it. Maintenance and fuel costs will also be borne by you, but there'll be no middleman taking a cut. Of course, if you fully crash it, you better hope you bought the optional insurance. Bottom line, it pays to fly professionally. Now, missions generate every day. The devs generated around 3 million missions, and these are not just based on specializations, they also take into account plane type, the weather, and the season. In short, you'll never play the exact same mission twice, and you won't be rescuing someone from a ski slope in the middle of summer. Mission types include passenger transport, flight seeing, search and rescue, cargo transport, agricultural aviation, aerial construction, charter service, medevac, aerial firefighting, and advertising. We don't know how these missions work specifically, as they weren't available when I played the sim, but the devs did discuss some of the simulated events that will affect your flying. For example, banners will add weight and drag, so you'll have to put in extra power to counteract these effects. Cargo is physically simulated, so if you hoist a cargo payload up with a helicopter, it will be affected by a prop wash, so you'll have to do it skillfully in order to remain stable. Every week you will have 3 different challenges across different game modes. For example, there could be a rally race, a low altitude flight, or a precision landing. Rally race has you speeding through a set of gates against the clock. Low altitude challenge requires you to fly fast and low. Precision landing is exactly what it says, land as accurately as possible. These challenges are short, around 2 to 3 minutes each, and your performance in a challenge will earn you a ranking and a place on the leaderboard. Depending on your position in the leaderboard at the end of the week, you may move up or down through the leagues. A series ends after around 10 weeks, and you'll then be rewarded with a medal based on your position: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or diamond. Now, on the surface, this seems aimed squarely at the gamer crowd, but the team at Asobo noticed that often their most committed competitors were actually hardcore simmers. The flight model is the same as the base sim, and so to perform well, you'll need to be a good pilot. For a more relaxed set of challenges, there's the World Photographer. Grouped into themed topics, you'll be challenged to take a photograph from a location around the world, and the composition of the photograph must contain certain elements. Themes such as European castles, USA bridges, and world-famous monuments will help you explore the most beautiful and iconic places on Earth. In a challenge which I completed from iconic sites of Asia, I had to land on a lake next to a Hindu temple in Indonesia and take a photograph with the temple towers in the foreground, the lake in the background, and my plane landed on the water. These challenges not only take you to places on Earth where you may never otherwise visit, but they also teach you to use the in-game camera system as well as the weather system, and some challenges require a certain time of day or year, or even having the moon in the sky, all of which you must set up for the photograph. Switching gears here, let's talk about some of the more technical aspects of the sim. One complaint of Flight Sim 2020 has been the large installation and long load times. Each time you purchase a new plane or airport or receive a new world update, you have to install it locally, and it contributes to a longer load time and increased drive space on your computer. The devs have sought to tackle this with changes to the core architecture. Now there's a greater reliance on the cloud. Internet bandwidth and install footprint is greatly reduced as the sim will only download what you can see. All world updates and marketplace purchases of airports and planes will be streamed on demand and cached locally. This also means that world updates and updates to marketplace aircraft are performed automatically. The rolling cache is now very important, and so a larger cache is now recommended. Note that installs of third-party aircraft and airports outside of the marketplace will not be stored in the cloud and will still require you to update them manually. The reworked marketplace allows renting of planes and even trials, which offers a low-risk way of try before you buy. This is all determined by the publisher. You will also be able to gift items from the marketplace to your friends, which is a highly requested feature. In order to improve the flight planning and simulation of the aircraft systems and avionics, Microsoft has brought working title simulations in-house. The end result is that Flight Sim 2024 will launch with the largest variety of aircraft and deep aircraft systems of any simulator ever. One of the goals is to reduce the need for flight simmers to have to use outside services or applications to assist with flight planning. The built-in flight planning tool can support simple flights in small aircraft or complex flights using some of the same features that are used by airline dispatchers for commercial flights. You can edit your flight path by dragging to different waypoints, look at runways, the weather, and the winds on the runways, preload and check charts for airports, and examine procedures. Not only that, but your planned flight path along any departure or arrival procedures can be visualized from within the simulator, even during flight. As well as these basic features, there are also advanced features like performance planning for aircraft. There's fuel and payload planning, checklists, and even extended ops for oceanic operations. All this information is then visible in the virtual cockpit via a built-in electronic flight bag, or EFB. Inside the cockpit, you'll find volumetric lighting, ray tracing, and improved glass rendering. All this contributes to a much more realistic-looking instrument panel with sharp and soft shadows across all buttons, controls, and screens. Flight Sim 2024 will be sold in 4 editions: Standard, Deluxe, Premium Deluxe, and Aviator. For those wanting an old-school physical box, there's the Steelbook version of the Premium Deluxe edition. There will also be a limited collector's edition which will contain an AN225 Antonov model inside, as a tribute to Microsoft's relationship in helping to rebuild the aircraft. There's also a themed Flight Sim 2024 bag, pins, and a steelbook of the Aviator edition. Pre-ordering any of these editions will get you the Canadair CL415 in Flight Sim 2020 to play right now. I was lucky enough to be one of the first 24 people outside of the dev team to try Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The experience felt similar to how I felt back in 2019 when I was one of the first to try Flight Sim 2020. A mixture of excitement, surprise, and awe at what I was experiencing. The feeling of seeing and trying something truly at the cutting edge of what's possible in the gaming world. With Flight Sim 2024, I believe Microsoft and Asobo have really listened to what its players want from the sim. There's something here for everybody, from the digital tourist as they call it, wanting to view our amazing planet, to the casual gamer who wants structured content and career mode and challenges, through to the hardcore simmer looking for the very best flight model and world rendering that's currently possible on a home simulator. The architecture is designed to be more lightweight, with reduced demand on internet bandwidth and local storage, whilst greatly improving install and startup times. There's big improvements to the flight model, allowing add-on authors more flexibility than ever to create authentic flight characteristics for the most unusual flying machines ever built by humans. And the terrain is more detailed than ever, the weather system's more complex than ever, and the world is lit and rendered using the most cutting-edge technology we have available, with better avionics, flight planning tools, and a huge variety of aircraft to fly and explore with. I'd like to thank Microsoft and Asobo for allowing me to experience this wonderful sim firsthand and bring you all the details, and to you for watching this far. A video about my trip to the Grand Canyon will be coming soon, so please consider subscribing so that you don't miss it or any future Flight Sim videos. Take care guys, and happy flying.